The other day I got an email message, actually a Facebook message, from a woman who used to live here, who actually grew up here, who said, "I love you and miss you." Well, she just lives down the street. And, you know, life is really kicking my ass, and I know that, you know, if I saw you, you'd just tell me to work harder. And that's because, you know, basically, as this is an aside, around Rudy, we worked. I mean, we didn't sit around and chant all day. We basically, pardon my French, we busted our asses. We worked. Around Rudy, it was really important that we support ourselves. So we did. And starting with absolutely nothing, we built this place. But anyway, so we worked hard. So she says, "I know you just tell me to work hard." And yada, yada, yada. So I wrote her back and said, "Actually, I'm not going to tell you to work hard, because until you start making good choices, working harder is useless." And there are a number of yoga systems, but let's say there are two systems that produced a tremendous amount of literature. And one is the Ashtanga yoga system, the 8-limbed yoga system that is mentioned in Patanjali. It turns out actually that it now, you know, it seems like Patanjali and his system was actually really minor in the total history of yoga, even though it's one of the few pieces of literature that we have that seem to come out of the Sankhya system. You know, maybe it was not nearly as important as it has become to us in the West, because in fact it's just one of the few pieces of literature that exists and was one of the earliest works on yoga that was ever translated. The larger and more prominent yoga system is the yoga system of the Shaiva Tantras, which is called the Sadanga yoga system because it only has 6 limbs. And the most important of the 6 limbs is called Tarka. And in this case, Tarka refers to discrimination. And what they're really saying in sort of fancy court Sanskrit is, and you know this already, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, it's all about our choices. It's all about our choices. To choose, you know, to engage in a spiritual practice is to begin to experience, you know, sort of acknowledge the endless dissatisfaction that our mind and our choices, the choices that flow from our mind, lead us to. I practice every day. In fact, I've been doing this practice for 43 years. Or is it 53? I can't remember anymore. A long time. Ever since I was 40, I've been doing this. And I'm doing it more, I'm working at it more now than I have ever worked in my life. And I'm finding in it more value than I've ever experienced in my life. And I've worked at it a lot already. And so to engage a deeper part of ourselves, to have value for the depth within us, to hold that deeper part of ourselves and begin to create in our life the space and the structure through which it can manifest, is to begin to open yourself to the possibility that there are miracles in you that have yet to express themselves. And creating the structure and making contact with the power, well, actually, the power that has created the entire universe has created and is within you. This is sort of the subtext of Sadhanga Yoga. To make contact with that power, which is the essence of your heart, and to create the pathway from within yourself through which that power can manifest as, a total, actually what it is, I like to refer to it as abundance. But I'm not talking about material abundance. To create the pathway, the structure through which that abundance can manifest is really the most profound choice that we can make. And for its spiritual life, the first choice is like choosing to grow, because that's what we're in this world to do. And then starting to contemplate what growing means. And then to bring that understanding that we're in this world to grow to your daily life. And how do you manifest that? Well, actually, it's amazingly simple. It is, instead of getting tangled up in every stinking tension that falls on the sidewalk out in front of you out of some dog's butt, you just don't step in it. We don't engage it. We don't think, what did you mean by that? We simply release tensions and allow our creative energy to flow. And then experiencing that flow, allowing it to express itself, transforms every circumstance into a learning experience. Understanding we're in this world to grow, bringing that understanding into our daily lives, having some discipline, and developing the discrimination ever more deeply of what is growth and what is death. And choosing growth, choosing life over and over and over and over and over again really makes the work that we do meaningful. And without proper discrimination, work your ass off. It's, you're playing the game of life. Oh, that game of life. The funny thing about it is, it has one rule. The game of life has one rule. That one where we work to get ahead? The one rule of the game of life is, you play, you lose. That's the rule. So instead of choosing to play, and in that playing constantly looking outside ourselves for something to fill the space within us, if we choose to turn our attention within and begin to allow the fullness that is ever present within us to become unwrapped from the case of tensions that it is submerged in, the creative expression that comes out of you will, I guarantee you, it will surprise you in a wonderful way. Working harder and harder is useless, if you haven't made good choices. And the wonderful thing for each of us as human beings is we can start over any and every day. And simply choosing to make contact with our own creative energy and to facilitate, to generate a flow within ourselves that we hold as we move through our daily life and hold as we make contact, actual contact, with everybody that we meet in our daily life, really awakens some astonishing possibilities. I personally think, that each of us is in this world for only one reason, and that reason is to grow. I think that growing requires nourishment, which is primarily energy, which we have to contemplate and learn to experience and understand. And then, with the awareness of the nourishment that our life has presented us, we can begin to internalize the power of our own personal experiences and release and transcend the tensions, the self-doubt, and become ever more firmly anchored within ourselves. And that firm anchor becomes a solid base through which this energy just unfolds. It takes time to be able to go from kind of tense and agitated to really able to feel your own channels and chakras and to feel the movement of the energy, the gentle tide of the breath of life moving in you. Takes time to feel. You have to be willing to give yourself the time it takes to feel it. You can't rush it. Just like, today the first tomatoes came off the vine out in our garden. I'm sure Eddie would have been thrilled if the whole garden had been full of tomatoes 2 days after he planted it. But that's not the way it works. And that's not the way we work. It takes time. Give yourself the time. And hopefully you will make the choice to connect to the breath of life within yourself, that profound abundance, which is also the ultimate reality. And through your practice, which you choose to do, develop the awareness and sensitivity to yourself and the extraordinary vessel of creative energy that you are. There's no other reason why we're here and no other more joyful and profound experience that's available to us as people. I sit here for the sole purpose of supporting your endeavor, and in your work I sincerely wish you well. Namaste.